Good afternoon. My name is Tom Dake, and I'm with Student Involvement, and I would like to welcome you to the first of the debates for the Student Association elections. I would like to make a little bit of disclosure. Student Involvement is one of several departments that are funded with segregated university fees. These are fees that the student government has a significant say in how they're allocated. Democracy, as history has proves and we see daily, is difficult and demanding form of government. Governing ourselves is hard. Democracy requires sharing arguments and ideas and arrive at the best policies. So today our candidates will stand in a long and inspiring tradition. It's not easy to volunteer to serve, and it's not easy to engage others in respectful disagreement. In fact, it's difficult enough that the U.S. Congress can't always manage to do it. But as college students, you can do better. You can represent the best of the democratic tradition. For those of you watching, I urge you to stay the full hour. This will be exciting. This is democracy looks like on the ground, the give and take, the brilliant ideas, the stumbles. These people represent you and decide how your money is spent. Find out what and how they think. The format for the debate will be that each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question. When all the candidates in that category have responded, there will be an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal from the other candidates. A couple of other important things coming up to announce. Excuse me. There's a town hall debate for the SA elections that will be on Tuesday, April 1st at 5 p.m. in the Union Ballroom. The polls for the SA elections will be open April 15th through the 17th. Balloting information will be sent out via UWM email to all students. And for more information on the SA elections, go to elections.uwm.edu. I will introduce our candidates before I take my seat as moderator and begin asking questions. If each of you could stand briefly so that everyone can see who you are and what position you're running for. Let me start with Vice President for Student Affairs, Evan Braun. Have a seat. Thank you. And Vice President for Student Affairs candidate, Jakeem Moore. Candidate for Vice President for Academic Affairs, Ari Stone. And candidates for SA President, Ryan Dresden, Ryan Sorensen, and Lavelle Young. If our candidates for Vice President for Student Affairs will take to the podiums, we'll begin with questions. Okay. There we go. Okay, so the role of the Vice President for Student Affairs has the responsibility for overseeing parts of the SA that specifically concern student life. The VP for Student Affairs acts as the mentor for the newly created Advocacy Senators and chairs the Student Life and Interests Committee. The VPSA will also meet regularly with directors of resource centers, campus life directors, the Dean of Students, and the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs. Your first question. What student voices do you think are currently not at the table in university decision-making? How would you address this issue? And how would you make sure that more underrepresented students have a voice in shaping their on-campus experience?
First of all, I would like to thank you all for coming out. Thank you. So for the students, I feel that the students that don't have a voice here on campus, I feel like it's not a specific group. I feel like it's a lot of students as a whole because this campus is so diversified. But I feel like to address that problem, we would go about going to different orgs and seeing what we can do to get their opinions and voices out there, to see how we can better the school experience and how we can get students to come together and like get everyone involved.
Well, I think the newly formed advocacy seats actually address a lot of the groups that have been represented on campus, and I'm very happy that they're within our new constitution that we just passed. I personally would like to take time, if I'm elected, to go to each advocacy office and talk with the students that go there and the staff that goes there and try to work with the advocacy seats to push towards answering all the questions and concerns that students that are represented on campus need addressed.
30-second rebuttal or not? 30-second rebuttal?
No, thank you.
Next question. What are your thoughts about the relationship between the Student Association and registered student organizations? And in what ways do you think you could work to improve that relationship?
Well, I think we play a very large role, in fact. I mean, with the Student Appropriations Committee, I mean, we allocate over $300,000 worth of funds to different student organizations. So we play a big role in empowering student organizations. I would like to possibly make the SAC model a little bit more friendlier for student orgs. Maybe opening a few more sessions for them to go to. I understand life gets in the way. Sometimes you can't make all the meetings that are necessary to get grant training or to get funding for your organization.
I feel that the SA's role with registered student orgs here isn't that good, because I feel like they don't establish a personal relationship with them personally, and that's what I'm looking forward to do. So like going around asking each org, what are your opinions on this? What do you think we should do about this? Like actually getting to know the org, even though we may allocate money to them, but we need to know them like on a personal level as well to establish that relationship with them. So that's
30-second rebuttal.
No, thank you.
30 seconds.
no.
Okay. Next question. The newly created advocacy representative seats have been designed to ensure that underrepresented students have more of a direct say in making improvements to student life. Keeping that in mind, how do you plan on working with advocacy senators without interfering with the work already being done by various resource centers across campus?
Can you repeat that question?
I can, because it's long. The newly created advocacy seats have been designed to ensure that underrepresented students have more of a direct say in making improvements in student life. Keeping that in mind, how do you plan on working with advocacy senators without interfering with the work already being done by various resource centers across campus?
This is a hard question. I guess working with the senators, we will try to incorporate the students' ideas, but also keep in mind that the stuff that's already going on, like don't try to take away from that. But I feel like we will also we would still want to get the voices and opinions of the students, and but not take away from what has already been done here on campus. If that answers the question, that was a hard question for me. I'm sorry.
I think the big thing here is to keep an open line of communication. I don't think there will be any discrepancies with the offices that work for advocacy if we work with the new advocacy seats to keep an open line of communications between the SA and the advocacy offices. I feel like we can do more with helping them get more segregated fees into their offices to put on more great events or projects for campus.
30 seconds. Nope.
No, thank you.
You guys are fast. This will be an incredibly efficient student association. Okay, next question. One of the past difficulties with the student association involved the organization's role in representing the student body as a whole. How would you, as one of the leaders of SA, ensure that the SA adequately represents the diversity that exists on campus?
Well, taking advantage, once again, of the advocacy seats and the open communication that will hopefully be brought forth with the creation of them. And once again, I'd like to make an effort to make sure to go to each advocacy center and try to hold open listening sessions in their offices, or personally hold open listening sessions of my own on campus to get a more diverse and open communication pool.
And can you repeat the question for me?
I certainly can. One of the past difficulties with the SA involved the organization's role in representing the student body as a whole. How would you, as a leader of the SA, ensure that the SA adequately represents the diversity that exists on campus?
Well, first of all, we will represent, well, me personally, I will represent the diversity here on campus by pretty much providing services, programs, and events that bring students together here on campus, because I feel that since there is so much diversity, everyone is, I would say the school is kind of segregated, and I noticed that a lot in the union, like just walking past, you see a group of students sitting right here, and you see another group of students sitting right here. So I would want to put in place something that brings the students together as a whole, like as a whole entire body. So.
30 seconds.
No rebuttal.
30 seconds. Moving on to the next question. Within the realm of student affairs, what do you think should be the university's top priority over the next 10 years?
I feel the top priority should be innovations and research and just new ideas. My slogan is young ideas, more innovations, and I feel like right now in Milwaukee, we have, not just Milwaukee, but our school, we have the spotlight on us right now, and I feel like research and innovations is the thing right now. So we want to focus on getting the students involved on ideas and just new innovations, and not just engineering and sciences, just as a whole, work collaboratively as a whole, so get all the schools involved here on campus. And I feel like in the next 10 years, we'll be nationally known and globally competitive with other colleges.
I believe that one of the largest issues that should be addressed by the university as far as student affairs are concerned is parking and transit. It's a major issue. We need to expand our options on campus if we're going to supply the needs of every student. UWM is about 30% commuter students, I believe, and it is one of the largest commuter populations within the UW system, yet we have one of the largest problems with commuter students either getting parking or just walking to campus. This past winter has been one of the worst winters. I'm sure anyone that walks to campus will agree with me. Getting here was terrible. Sidewalks weren't cleared. So I'd like to expand our options and looking at how we can address those issues. Also, transparency in student funds. We pay thousands and thousands of dollars to come here, not just for our education, but also for the life that UWM gives us. And I believe that each student has the right to understand where each dollar goes towards. And finally, I'd like to look at creating more connections within the multiple schools and organizations on campus. Collaboration is a major thing that we need to start working towards to create a more fuller experience here at UWM and create connections that will expand into future career possibilities for students.
Second rebuttal.
No, thank you.
I want to thank you both for stepping up to be candidates, but at this point, you can step down.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Vice President for Academic Affairs. The Vice President for Academic Affairs is the point person for all issues pertaining directly to academic programs, colleges, or courses. Acting as the mentor for the academic senators, the Vice President for Academic Affairs is responsible for coordinating the elections of academic program representatives and will also hold meetings with the provost and deans of each college and school. First question. There seems to be a disconnect among graduate students at UWM. I'm sorry, let me start that again. There seems to be a discourse among graduate students at UWM in which they feel that they have not been adequately represented by the SA. The new structure contains 3 Senate seats specifically designated for grad students, yet those positions remain unfilled. How would you address this issue, and how would you work to get grad students more engaged in shared governance on campus?
Cool. So first of all, my name is Ari Stone, and I'm running for VPAA. This last year, I've served as the publicity and marketing person in the Board of Trustees, and I have learned, and that's been sort of my first experience with student government, but I've learned a lot particularly about what kind of attitudes are held about SA throughout the campus that kind of seem pertinent to answering that question. And most of what I've learned is that actually a lot of people don't understand what SA is, if they've even heard about it, and don't particularly understand what it can do for them. So I think this is not particularly an apathy on the part of graduate students as much as us needing to broadcast some successes and come up with some successes for graduate students to come to them, directly reach out and say, hey, we've done this for you. Inclusion is just one thing, but to be able to actually, instead of just kind of assuming this, if we build it, they'll come, if we open up these seats, they'll know how great it is and want to immediately run, to actually actively seeking out people who would be appropriate for those roles and kind of doing, I don't know, face-to-face recruiting. That, within this entire election process, I've noticed has been a lot more successful, for instance, than relying on social media, relying on flyers, et cetera. So part of that, I think, is going to have to be seeking out those students who are maybe having that discussion and letting them know, hey, now is the time to get involved.
For rather obvious reasons, I'm not going to ask you about rebuttal.
Rebut myself.
No. I will not give you that opportunity.
That's fine.
Next question. In the past, the SA was structured to represent students by their respective school or college. Despite their academic representation, a majority of legislation over the past several years has been focused on campus-wide issues and SA's internal affairs. As the point person for academic affairs and mentor of the academic senators, how would you encourage the SA to take on more issues that directly affect the academic experiences of students at UWM?
Well, part of that, I think, is a shift that we're seeing in the general culture of the Student Association, coming away from sort of insular politics that focus on the restructuring, reorganization of SA itself, and starting to think a little broader about school-wide initiatives and resolutions. So in terms of specifically academic resolutions, I think the building up of the program representatives process, which is going to be having basically at-large students from individual majors speak with their respective school senators about their unique needs within their major. I think that is going to be paramount to kind of getting that representative voice beyond just student affairs, beyond just one particular school. We got a great turnout for instance, LNS and at-large senators. There's still schools that are not represented. And one of my goals as Vice President of Academic Affairs would be to ensure that across all majors and across all disciplines, we get a varied voice. Thank you.
What are your thoughts about the current relationship between the Student Association and the UWM faculty, and in what ways do you think you can improve that relationship?
From what I have experienced, the major problem is not necessarily contention so much as that it just doesn't really exist as strongly as we need it to. And I think one of the ways of improving that relationship, just the same as improving the relationship among students, improving the relationship with directors of resource centers, is to actually ensure that with our programming, we are reaching out and we are actually like meeting the people who we serve and the people who we can collaborate with. So, you know, one of my goals, I would be certainly meeting regularly with the provost, as well as with some of the deans, but also ensuring that the academic senators that I'd be supervising were meeting with their deans in addition, and sort of building those collaborations and relationships so that when and if we would like to work with them on affecting change for student advocacy, you know, we already have allies within faculty administration.
Next question. Part of the Panther Pride message is to celebrate academic success. What role could the essay play in this?
Well, I think a lot of that is going to revolve around coming up with work groups and focus groups and sending out people to collect data directly among students about what would better their academic experience here, knowing that their experience academically can't be severed from the entirety of their student life experience and their time here at UWM. You know, that's going to matter whether or not they decide to stay at this school, whether they decide to get involved. So I think SA's key role, and one of my primary goals for next year would be to actively seek out the voice of the students about what they need in terms of, you know, input on curricula, classroom materials, whether that is trying to encourage all professors to be on a standardized D2L online model, or getting whiteboards where we currently have chalkboards, or ensuring that the rooms that we have for certain classes, I don't know about you guys, but I'm in some big lecture classes that are shoved into classrooms that are way too small or cold, etc. These are all important factors of student life as well as academic success. And I think that instead of just kind of assuming what students need to academically succeed, the SA's role needs to be going out, gathering that data, and then presenting it in the form of legislation back to the administration.
Recruitment and retention have been an increasing concern at UWM. If elected, how would you address and work to improve student retention rates?
I want to say just briefly to this that it is not just a UWM problem, that the UW system across the board has been experiencing problems with both recruitment and graduation rates retention. But here particularly, I know that that is one of the major long-term strategic goals of the administration, and something that I think that in my role, I'm going to be talking a lot to administration about in terms of advancing their kind of goals within it. In terms of, but I think a lot of it honestly has to do with student life and that general experience, whether it is about student affairs issues or whether it is about their academic experience. When students feel like their voice is being listened to and respected and changes are actually being made based off the suggestions that they're inputting, they're a lot more likely to stay. And also, people are a lot more likely to pay attention to UWM as a school that, you know, cares about its student body enough to listen and then enough to take that data and implement changes. So it's not enough just to go out and do work groups and focus groups. We also have to be, you know, collaborating and creating legislation and collaborating with the administration on implementing that. Part of my role, I think, then is to ensure that on the student end, on the academic end, student needs are being met.
Thank you again for stepping up as a candidate.
You're welcome.
And
Is
you
that
may
it?
step down.
That's short. Okay. Thank you all very much.
We're going to take a 2-minute pause here while the presidential candidates choose their podium. Okay, I would like to give you each an opportunity to simply introduce yourself to everyone present, and we'll start with the podium to my left.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Sorensen. I'm currently running for president. Right now I'm the vice chair of the Student Association. I've been involved in the Student Association for 2 years now. Last year I was a freshman senator where I worked on various issues pertaining to sustainability, making sure that our campus is sustainable and that we are spending money efficiently on energy and reducing the amount of paper that we're using. This year I've been actively looking how we can reform parking by forming the Parking and Transportation Committee as a major sponsor of that, and working with faculty members on the Physical Environment Committee, looking how we can make sure that our campus is more attractive and more competitive around the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lavelle Young, running for president, and I just want to thank you all for coming out this evening, taking out the time of your day. We have commuter students, we have resident students all here today, so I just want to thank you guys for taking the time. Again, my title of Student Association right now is Office Manager, and I really took on the project really heavily of archiving our documents so we can have historical records and transport them to an online database. It's about 4,000 documents and things like that, so you know, I have a team that I work with SA, and we really tackle that really hard with renaming documents and uploading them. Also, I'm actively on campus activities board where we're trying really hard to create school spirit, create a community, diverse communities, because our student population is very diverse, so we want to bring everyone together to enjoy campus life and to make their class things or their days ending after class easygoing.
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Ryan Dresden. I'm currently a member of the Board of Trustees as well as the Senate Student Appropriations Committee. I also serve in executive positions for Greek Council on campus as well as Sigma Chi fraternity. My goal is to have the vision of improving the quality of life on campus, perpetuating Panther pride, and having a stronger sense of diversity among all students at campus.
All right. The president is the official representative of the Student Association. He is responsible for chairing meetings of the Senate and Executive Committee, meeting with the Chancellor and other entities across campus, and recommending shared governance committee appointments to the Senate. The president also has the responsibility to mentor all at-large and freshman senators. First question. Outreach data collected by the SA Board of Trustees has shown that access to parking is a widely felt issue among UWM students. If elected, what initiatives would you take to address and resolve this issue that affects the majority of students on campus? And we will begin with candidate Sorensen.
This year I've already been working on parking. I sit on the Physical Environment Committee, so we oversee parking structures around campus. One main issue that I think we need to tackle is expanding street parking limits. Around campus, the limit is only an hour long, and I think that's unacceptable, especially when classes are an hour and 15 minutes long. Some of the higher level classes are 3 hours long almost, and you don't want students sitting in class thinking about parking when they're trying to focus and study or if they're in an important lecture. So I think it's important that we have a good communication with the city of Milwaukee, contact our aldermen, and see if we can expand street parking, as well as possibly looking at expanding U-Park on Capitol and Humboldt. That has been a very important program that we fund through the Student Association this year. And I think we also should look at handicap parking on campus for students with disabilities and veteran students as well.
And candidate Dresden.
Yeah, I think parking is perhaps the biggest issue on campus right now as far as commuter students are going, and especially with the harsh winters that we have. Unfortunately, parking and transit is not a problem that is going to be fixed in a year or even 5 years. It's a process that is going to take time that many universities, have been struggling through themselves. Expanding parking hours is something that would be beneficial to students on campus, but also looking for new venues to where we can build parking structures, working with the administration of UWM to figure out what we can do in that aspect. The parking in Milwaukee is very limited, and we're going to have to look forward in the future to find options to allow for more parking spaces. You only have so many spots to where you can park in Milwaukee, and if there aren't more options, then people will still suffer. So no further comment.
And candidate Young.
Yeah, so I worked with the outreach and recruitment director on the listening sessions that we held. We went around campus asking different organizations, different entities, and departments on campus what their problems are. And one of the major things was the parking and transit thing. So really what the Board of Trustees is doing today is trying to gather a lot of data, gather surveys from students, and really work collaboratively with the students to understand what they want from the parking and transit entities on our campus. And the major things I'm hearing is that the U-Pass is a problem where if you lose your U-Pass, you have to pay another $45. That should be unacceptable because our SEG fees are paying for a lot of U-Passes, and we should at least have a second chance to get a free one. Another entity is BOSS, and making that, probably extending the hours again as they used to be, so we can have more safety around our commuter students, and also working with the parking and transit office to work with aldermen around this area. Students receive a lot of tickets from UWM or from the city of Milwaukee, and I agree with my opponents when it comes to the problem that 1 hour parking is too short for students, but I also want to make that initiative to work with the aldermen, so collaboratively, not with just the students, but with our elected officials in our city to make sure those hours are extended for our parking.
Okay. 30-second rebuttal. Candidate
Yeah,
Sorensen.
I think another thing that we should look at too is the bike share program. We tried to implement that this year, but we dropped the ball on that. So I think next year we can still have some good communication with the Office of Sustainability, which I already worked with Kate Nelson on that. So I think we could also work on bike share program around campus too.
30-second rebuttal.
No
Candidate Resident. 30-second rebuttal.
No, thank you.
All right, next question. What are your thoughts about the current relationship between the Student Association and UWM administration, and in what ways do you think that you could improve that relationship? Candidate Dresden.
I think that, ultimately our goal as, leaders in Student Association is to work collaboratively with faculty and staff on campus. Our relationship with administration needs to be one that is strong. If we don't have a strong relationship with the administration and with the faculty and staff on campus, we're not going to get anything done. All it does is just create disunity between the students and people who are teaching us and the people who are setting the policies, in regards to, for other things such as tuition. If we work against each other, we won't accomplish anything. So meeting regularly with the dean, with the provost, with deans of schools, figuring out what we can do to work collaboratively to have a great experience on campus and improve the quality of life is, I think, something that the Student Association should work towards, something that we should all work towards.
Candidate Young.
So, student association has become a dirty word among students. Administration has become a dirty word. I'm looking to make those words or those phrases not dirty anymore. We want to be fresh ideas. We want to work with administration. I know administration wants to work with us. And the basis and bottom line and foundation of that is trust. Campus Activities Board has recently kind of merged with administration, and it was fearful at first because the students were kind of reluctant at doing that, and we felt we were being taken over. But at the end of the day, the relationship with Campus Activities Board and student involvement has been great, and that's active relationship working with the administrator that I have experience with as co-chair of Campus Activities Board. And that's the bottom line, is just trust, 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 and doing what you say you're going to do and not going behind the faculty back and the faculty not going behind the students back. That's what I'm about. That's what I'm about, collaboration, and I would definitely want to work closely and have a new, fresh look to SA and the word administration also.
Thank you. And Candidate Sorensen.
This year, I've already been working with administration. We've been trying to repair our not-so-good relationship with them. And I would encourage them to come and meet with us as well. I think that sitting down and talking with them, seeing what their issues are, and then expressing what the student issues are is important too. Because they're, in Chapman Hall all day, and we're talking to the students. And I think if we have an effective outreach program, which we are currently working on, and we should expand on that, then we can be the liaison between the students and administration. So I think if we continue that route, we'll be in good shape. And I would welcome Michael Lovell to go running with me in the morning as well. He's an avid runner, so I think that'd be a good relationship builder too.
30-second rebuttals. Candidate Dresden.
No rebuttal.
Candidate Young.
No rebuttal.
Candidate Sorensen.
I'm good.
School spirit at UWM is much lower than it might be. What do you think the SA's role is in promoting Panther Pride, and how would you do that? Candidate Young.
So again, with Campus Activities Board and other entities that I work closely with on campus, I'm running for president not just because it's a nice title to have on a resume, not just because I run meetings and things like that. I'm running because I've been around campus and I've been to many different entities from the day I started, and I hear the students' voices and I see their concerns, and one of the major concerns is that there's a lack of traditions, there's a lack of school spirit. Working with Campus Activities Board, we made it our mission to encourage school spirit. We have committees dedicated to creating traditions because we want the new wave of freshmen and alumni that are graduating to be proud of where they come from, and we want UWM to be very well known. We have our championship game tomorrow. That's a start, and Campus Activities Board is actively working with Michael Liberty. He's asked us to work with promoting this event tomorrow. So I want to congratulate all the young men that just made it to the championship game on our basketball team. But again, we want to encourage traditions and school spirit so we can be proud of the name UWM, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
Candidate Sorensen.
Yeah, I agree with what Lavelle said as well. And I think SA needs to get more involved in Welcome Week too. We are a strong force around here on campus, and I think when the new freshmen come in the fall, I think the SA needs to be there and be like, we're here to help. Here's some organizations that you might be interested. So I think if we create that dialogue right when they get here is important. And another thing I would like to bring back is the SA Block Party. I think that was an effective way to go into the neighborhoods and create a tradition for students where they can get to know their neighbors, where they can get to know who's living next to them, get to know some of the non-student members in their community. So I think if we start bringing those back, as well as working with the Campus Activities Board to strengthen school spirit, is important. And also earlier this year, we have been working with the athletic director to create a school spirit committee, which I think is very important and we need to continue working on as well.
Candidate Dresden.
Perpetuating Panther Pride is something that I really want to focus on. If you look at University of Wisconsin-Madison, you notice that everyone is a Badger. Everyone is proud to be a Badger. There's that sense of unity, that sense of family. Everyone comes together. It doesn't matter if you're in Madison or if you're in Houston, Texas. You have that unity. And that's something that we don't really have on this university, and that's something we need to work towards. We need to encourage students to be involved, to set things up for students to get involved and participate. If there's not activities for students to participate in, then they won't seek those opportunities. And as Student Association and as leaders, it's our job to get students involved. It's our job to create those traditions, to create those activities for students to participate in. The more things that we give students to do, the more they will interact with other students. The more interaction among students, the better the relationships will be and the better the bonds will be, which means that we will have the traditions, we will have that family effect. And as that happens, we'll have better things result within the university. We'll have better scholarship. We'll have better, shown attendance at sports games. I was so proud to go to a UWM basketball game and see a student who did not sit down the entire game. It shouldn't just be one student who's sitting down. It should be every single student there. And that's what we need to work towards. And that starts with us encouraging students to get involved.
Blah, blah. 30-second rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
30-second rebuttal.
I think we should also look at what UW Oshkosh does. Their student government puts student orgs on their on class syllabi. So I think if there's like a geology club, we should put that onto like a geology class syllabus, just so you can create a good academic relationship as well as the student life relationship in class.
30-second.
No rebuttal.
Voter turnout for the SA constitutional referendum was incredibly low, and 10 of the 38 positions in this election do not have candidates. How would you, as president, work to bridge this gap between the SA and the student body? Candidate Sorensen.
I think actively reaching out to the deans of schools to fill the academic seats is very important also. And I think reaching out to the Student Success Center and other university resources, like the resource centers and academic centers, as well as student orgs to fill the advocacy senate seats as well. You know, one of my dreams is to have a full Senate. SA has never had a full Senate in years. And I think that's something we all can strive for, because if we have more students involved in the Student Association, we'll have a stronger voice for the students and enhance the student experience here at school. So I think that's something we should work on.
Candidate Dresden.
Cultivating leadership is another one of my platforms, and I think that's something that the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee Student Association really should strive to do. There are vacancies, and it is our responsibility to get those seats filled. And kind of one of the things that I wanted to implement would be the Future Panther Foundation. Basically what that would entail is freshmen, before coming to the university in the summer, would participate in a week-long leadership training with leaders on campus already who have established themselves. That would be a tradition that would work. And as that tradition, you know, goes on and is successful, you will have more freshmen involved. It starts with the freshmen. The freshmen will become sophomores who will be involved, you know, from freshman year to the time that they graduate. And that's what we need. We need involvement from day one from all of our students. And if we give them the involvement right away, then they'll want to participate in the opportunities that we give to them on campus.
Thank you. Candidate Young.
So I spoke with several and many different students, and I say I'm running for a student association president position. A lot of responses, oh no, I hate SA, or a lot of responses, what is student association? I want to be the medium and encouraging and letting students know that student association and us as students in a public institution have a right, and a right to share governance. Educating students what 36095 is, which is a Wisconsin state statute that gives us this power as students to unite together and to share governance with the administration. So I really want to educate students, and I want to increase the Student Association efforts when it comes to marketing, educating students, because I believe when students are finally educated, they will run for several positions. They will come and join in the open meetings and the conversations. My initial invite to Student Association, thankfully was by the VP of Academic Affairs, Ari, where it was a simple flyer, and I was encouraged to come to a meeting and inquire about what this was. But I want to increase those efforts where students really know why we're here. I'm serving on the implementation plan with our current chair, and we really want to define exactly what our student government role is. And once we have that concrete definition of what we are as an entity, I want to increase student association efforts to educating our colleagues to, you know, basically come in. Thank you.
30-second rebuttal. Candidate Sorensen.
I think what Ryan and Lavelle said was very important also, reaching out to freshmen, getting them involved the first year like I did. I think that's very important also. And I think Lavelle hit on a good point of educating students, making sure that they know their rights is another important thing. Because once they know their rights, they'll get involved.
No
Candidate
rebuttal.
Dresden. Candidate Young.
No rebuttal.
Of the 200 university committee seats currently assigned to students, only 85 of those are filled. While this is much higher than usual, it is made up of more at-large students than in previous years. What strategies would you employ to get these seats filled and increase engagement of at-large students on campus? Candidate Dresden.
I think it all boils down to communication. You know, going out and actively talking to students. If students don't know that they have these opportunities, they're not going to partake in those opportunities. I didn't know that we had shared governance committees when I first stepped on this university last spring. It was, through a friend of mine who referred me to the Student Association and referred me to all the opportunities that we have. And if those opportunities aren't shared with students, then they won't be involved. And like I said, it all goes back to freshman year. Letting these students know as soon as they step foot on campus that they have these opportunities. They have an opportunity to be part of something. Their voice can be heard, and providing for the common good of the university. If we let students know that they can participate and they can be a leader on campus, then they will partake. It is our goal to cultivate leadership on campus, and that is a great way to do that by giving students, the awareness that you can be on this committee, you can have your voice heard. What is your passion? What is your interest? And by learning that, we can really help get them into the positions that would help them do well.
Candidate Young.
So I believe in leading by example and displaying myself to be a great leader, to be a student leader, and to encourage an incoming freshmen and even prospect students when they roam through our union during orientation, during tours, to show them that, hey, it's not boring, it's not dry, it can be fun, it can be exciting, and to see your work come into fruition is a great thing to do, and it's great on your resume. So being that example to students and young students and prospect students is exactly what I would want to do as the president, and to encourage them that, like I said, it's not dry, it can be exciting, and I want to lead by example.
And Candidate Sorensen.
I think, again, they hit on some very good points. I think reaching out to the deans and all professors and faculty on campus, encouraging students to get involved in shared governance committees is very important also. And I think getting the freshmen involved again during the first couple weeks during Welcome Week, getting them involved, getting them informed, informing them of what committees are important on campus. Because all these committees affect you in one way or another. And I think that it's important to reach out to the students.
30-second rebuttal. Candidate Dresden.
No rebuttal.
Candidate Young.
No rebuttal.
Candidate Sorensen.
I'm good.
I'm going to read this one twice because it's a little long. Out of the UW system's 26 campuses, UWM currently has the third highest rate of student segregated university fees, which fund on-campus services, resource centers, and provides operating budgets for registered student organizations. As tuition prices continue to rise and access to financial aid continues to decline, what are some of the ways that you hope to make sure that students' segregated university fee dollars are responsibly and adequately allocated to services that affect student life? Once more. Out of the UWM system's 26 campuses, UWM currently has the third highest rate for student segregated university fees, which fund on-campus services, resource centers, and provides operating budgets for registered student organizations. As tuition prices decline, tuition prices continue to rise, and access to financial aid continues to decline, what are some of the ways that you hope to make sure that students' segregated university fee dollars are responsibly and adequately allocated to services that affect student life? Candidate Sorensen.
Well, if you look at what we did this year, we said that each entity that is funded by segregated fees needs to take a cut back. We had a huge surplus. Every entity on campus that was funded by segregated fees had a large surplus, especially parking. And we said, no, we're not going to give you an increase this year. You need to start cutting back, and you need to start digging into your surplus. Because as a student, I'm fed up with paying so much for tuition and segregated fees. So by making sure we make wise investments and make sure we're fiscally responsible, we make sure that our money, in turn, is spent reasonably, and make sure that entities like BOSS and the resource centers aren't cut. By making sure we spend everything well.
Candidate Young.
So my platform is innovation, research, new ideas. If old services on our campus do not work or they're broken, I'm not saying reinvent the wheel. I'm saying to create efficiencies within our program so our dollars can stretch. As an accounting and finance major, I am looking at the dollars and I'm saying, okay, what is the best way to utilize these? I'm not looking to spend money just because students have already paid it. I'm looking to give students the best bargain for their buck, but also the most innovative processes at the same time. And so with that said, the services and programs that we do have on campus that are funded by our large segregated fees, if it works, let's keep it going. If it doesn't, let's save the students money.
Candidate Dresden.
It's important to figure out what we find is essential. What we find as students is something that we really value on campus, and what is something that we don't value on campus. And that's a hard thing to do, but efficiency and effectiveness, within our segregated fees is something that we really need to work on. But one thing in particular that I really think that the Student Association should look to do is lead by example, not take a salary. Have the positions that you have and not have a salary per month and not have a stipend. There are no other organizations on campus that have paid salaries, not one. And I know I can voice for members of my organizations and members of many organizations on WELL that people put in countless hours to get events sponsored on campus, to get things planned on campus. And doing something like that would cut money back. So figuring out what we can keep that's essential and then figuring out what we can cut that will improve. If we can give money back to the students, that would be phenomenal. I know every person in this room would like to have lower segregated fees. And if we can do that, then we need to do that. There should be no hesitation.
Thank you. 30-second rebuttal.
I think, again, we got to do what we did this year. This year, we're going to be paying $20 less in segregated fees because we made the choices that we had to by saying to parking and to other resources that are funding through segregated fees, by saying, no, you need to spend more your funds wisely. You can't be, just doling out the cash like willy-nilly. You need to be fiscally responsible.
30-second rebuttal, Candidate Young.
I agree with Candidate Dresden that salaries or SA needs to be a discussion held. But I do want to say that he's wrong that there is no student organization that receives a salary. Our UWM Legal Clinic is a registered student organization, and we have a paid professional attorney on hand, and he's paid a salary. So I just wanted to say that. Also, again, that I agree with Ryan, where we need to save money, especially, I believe, one of the biggest things that goes in loophole is UPass.
30-second rebuttal, Candidate Dresden. I think, salaries for organizations such as the Legal Clinic. I've utilized the Legal Clinic myself after, being involved in an accident. But that's something that is open to every student on campus. There is no student who can walk into a legal clinic who will be turned away. The only way they will be turned away if it's conflict of interest with another student on campus. So when you look at that aspect, yes, that's available to every student. But when you look at organizations such as Sigma Chi or Alpha Kappa Psi or Gamma Phi Beta, any organization on campus, they have people who are diligently working hard day in and day out to provide for the organization and have their organization run as effectively and efficiently as possible. There's no student organization run by students that has professional staff that receives salaries.
Next question. What specific initiatives and projects would you undertake to make SA more transparent and accessible? Candidate Young.
So an issue that I noticed when I started to check out Student Association was, the public meeting notices that are sent out to the public, the agendas. I believe that it should be sent out more in advance, not just being the very, very minimum, which is 24 hours in advance. And I also believe that it should be more public other than on bulletins and to a listserv, which is an email that is sent out to people who subscribe to that email. It should be publicly known that the executive committee is meeting. It should be publicly known that the student allocations committee is meeting. And I want to encourage these things to be more public, more aware, so students can see and say, oh, what is this? Check it out, instead of just being posted on a small bulletin board, a white piece of paper that's not attractive, and when you walk past it, you won't even take a second look at it. So really, really, really having our meetings being open by being attractive, more marketing.
Candidate Sorensen.
I agree with what Lavelle said also, but I think another thing is reaching out to students. It's very important. We need to get them engaged. We need to show them that our decisions that we make in the Student Association affect them one way or another while they're students. And I think another good thing we're working on right now is doing a podcast, making our meetings a lot more interactive with the students, so it's not such a formal meeting, and making them more fun and open to all the students. And I think we can do that either by fixing our website. Our website's a mess, putting that on the front page, informing them when meetings are. And again, just reaching out to the general student body by collaborating with professors and other faculty members on the university.
Candidate Dresden.
Encouraging involvement. Like I said, it all goes back to your freshman year. When you step foot on campus, your first year determines whether you're going to succeed on campus, whether you're going to fail on campus, and how that interaction is going to be. If we get students involved, if we let them know about the Student Association, if we tell them what we do, what our voice is, what we can do for them, what we can't do for them, how they can get involved, how they can be part of something great. That's how we get students involved. Students know that, these meetings occur, and if we tell them, if we say, hey, there's a Board of Trustees meeting Sunday at 6, come. Encouraging them to show up. They will show up. And it's something that, it's a problem that we didn't create, but it's a problem that we need to fix. And it's something that's going to take time. We're not going to have student involvement dramatically increase from this semester to next semester, from having 3% involved to, say, 50% involved. It's a process, and it should be our role to figure out a plan of how we can get students involved from day one to continue to be involved and have those students that are involved continue to get other students involved as well.
30-second rebuttal, Candidate Young.
So again, just bringing that attractiveness to the word Student Association rather than being unknown or that's not a good name. That's a bad word. So really bringing that attractiveness and to our marketing efforts and everything else.
Candidate Sorensen.
Yeah, I agree that we need to make sure the SA has a good marketing plan, and I think Ari, as marketing social media director, has been doing a fantastic job. But we need to increase our efforts also. Getting the freshmen involved during the first year, showing that the Student Association is important, changing the atmosphere as the Student Association, make sure that we're more inclusive to all the students.
Rebuttal.
I would just say verbal communication. You can put flyers everywhere. You can put banners up in the union. You can have a banner on a bus. But if you don't physically talk to people, if you don't let them know what is going on, if you don't share with them your experiences and tell them how you can get involved, they're not going to do that. So we can create pages. We can spend money on flyer and advertising, but our number one priority goal should be to put ourselves out there and have the most interaction with as many students as possible. Because the more interaction we have, the more hands we shake, the more smiles we create, and the more people we meet, the higher the chances will be to get students involved in organizations on campus and in SA. And that should be our number one goal.
Okay. All right, this one is also a little long, so I'll read it twice. The mission of the Student Association is to enrich the student experience at UWM through representation, advocacy, and the funding of services and activities that improve student life. What current university initiatives do you feel best enrich the student experience? And if elected, how would you support, improve, or maintain said initiatives? The mission of the Student Association is to enrich the student experience at UWM through representation, advocacy, and the funding of services and activities that improve student life. What current university initiatives do you feel best enrich the student experience? And if elected, How would you support, improve, or maintain said initiatives? Candidate Dresden.
For me personally, the initiative to restore Greek life at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee has been something that has helped me become the leader that I am today. There was a quote about Steve Jobs once called real distortion, which basically means enhancing the leadership qualities of others around you. And that's, helped me enhance, leaders around me as well. And that's something that I want to continue to do and continue to work with. I'm currently, working with a new sorority that will be coming to campus, and things like that give students the opportunity to become leaders on campus, and it goes back to cultivating leadership on campus. We want our students to be leaders. When they graduate the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, they should be leaders. They should have those leadership jobs and have those leadership positions and set a standard in the community. There are also, the advocacy seats and the different, resource organizations on campus, I believe, are essential as well. It is our job to understand the diversity that we have on campus and working collaboratively with those resources on campus to see what we can do for those resource centers, see what we can do, for non-traditional students, what we can do for, Asian students, what we can do, for the Black Student Union, seeing what we can do for every organization on campus, every student on campus, so we can best fit their needs. That's the initiatives that we should take. We should have the voice of every single student heard on campus. And if we don't have the voice heard of every single student on campus, then we're not doing our job.
Candidate Young.
So we have resource centers that are paid for by segregated fees, our fees. We have the entities like Campus Activities Board, student involvement, places that their job is to enrich our experience. But somehow us students are feeling kind of low down about our campus, that it's not too much school spirit, not too much tradition, and my experience here is not that enriched. Well, my job is to go to those resource centers, work with those advocacy seat senators, and go to the entities that are in place to enrich our experience and execute that. Make sure it happens. Hear these voices, hear these opinions, these fresh ideas, and put it all together. Make committees, make working groups, and make sure that, okay, these are ideas on the table, well, let's make it happen. And that's my job as if I become president, is I'm in an executive position, so my job is to execute the ideas and visions and goals of all these entities on campus, especially the students.
Candidate Sorensen.
I agree with what all my opponents said also, but I think one of the biggest things on UWM that enhances the student experience is PantherFest. That is a very unique opportunity that other UW schools do not have. And I think if we get more students involved in that, get more students aware of the process of how to get involved. And I think we can use that same model for other entities on this campus that enhance the student experience, such as athletics. We need to get more students at large, maybe that aren't athletes, so they can promote athletics as well. And I think reaching out to student orgs, reforming the SAC process, making sure that every student org is adequately funded, making sure that the SA can sit down with the student org leaders and say, how can we help you? Create that dialogue. Figure out how the SA president can sit down and help the students out. And I think that's what we need. We need better communication with the students to find out what the students exactly want.
30-second rebuttal.
Like I said, it just all goes down to encouraging students to get involved. We have PantherFest. PantherFest is great. It's one of the times that you have the most interaction with your peers on campus. But what happens after PantherFest? Nothing. We don't have, things like PantherFest that continue to go on throughout the year. We all come together as one. PantherFest is the time for family. That's when UWM becomes a family. That's when we have that involvement. But if we don't have that involvement continue, if we don't have those activities that take place that encourage student involvement, then we won't have the Panther pride that we want to have on this university.
30-second rebuttal, Candidate Young.
No rebuttal.
Rebuttal, Candidate Sorensen.
I think another thing that the SA could do is start reaching out to the community members. Get a better communication between the campus and the neighborhoods. We could also bring back the SA Block Party by working with students in PEC to put on performances in the neighborhood so students can get to know who their neighbors are, instead of just the campus being right smack dab in the middle of the city. We need to make sure the campus is fluid with the community as well.
we are going to allow each candidate to have a closing statement. So I'd like to thank the presidential candidates for stepping up to be candidates, but you can also step down at this moment, and we'll reintroduce each candidate individually for a closing statement. Candidates for Vice President for Student Affairs, closing statement from Evan Braun.
All right. I'd once again like to thank you all for coming out here again today. If you take back anything from anything we've said today, I hope you understand that the Student Association is making changes for the better to reflect student needs and concerns. If you vote for me, I promise to uphold the standard that has been made, and I will fight for student rights above all else. It has been my privilege to speak before you today, and if you wish to speak to me afterwards, I'll be out here in the lobby, and you can also add me on Facebook. I'm Evan Jacob Brown on Facebook, so feel free to add me, just send me a message, talk to me, and thank you again for coming out today.
Vice President for Student Affairs candidate Jakeem Moore.
Thank you all again for coming out to hear us speak. And once again, we're all about students, students, students. That's what our campaign is about, and just young ideas and more innovations. That's what we mainly focus on, and making UWM like a community of, have a sense of community and family bonding. Like that's what we really want to focus on here, and just students and research and just new innovations here on campus. And thank you guys for listening to me today.
Vice President for Academic Affairs candidate Ari Stone.
There. So I mentioned briefly, I spent my first couple of years here, I'm a junior now, spent freshman and sophomore year trying to futilely trying to get involved with the Student Association, and I saw the Board of Trustees as an awesome opportunity to kind of restructure and help affect positive change from within the organization. And I think that everybody who's participated, everybody up here, as well as the board members in the room, as well as the general student body, has been really awesome this year in constructing, hopefully, the groundwork for a student association that really, really represents the student body for which it serves. And I hope personally, as the Vice President for Academic Affairs, not only to uphold my roles within that position, but to create and foster that culture of inclusion and diversity, and actually seeking out student voice that is so kind of paramount to the entire mission of the organization. So thank you all. Have a good day.
Because my job as moderator, I wish to remind the presidential candidates that your closing statement is 2 minutes. Not that I suspect anyone will go longer than that. Presidential candidate Ryan Dresden.
I would like to thank all of y'all for coming out today. The step that Student Association is taking in a positive direction is something that we can all benefit from, and something that the university can benefit from as well. It is my goal to enrich and improve the quality of life for all students on campus. When we look at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and we compare ourselves to other institutions, we find so many things that we can work on and so many things that we can improve on. And the fact that we're in the unique position to build a university from the ground up and reestablish this university to have a strong presence in the state of Wisconsin, not only in the state of Wisconsin, but in the entire United States, is something that we shouldn't overlook. There are a lot of things that we can do. By perpetuating Panther pride, we can have that family, we can have that tradition, we can all be part of something. We can go up to someone in California, LA, or even France and say, hey, I'm a Panther. And there's no greater sense of satisfaction to say, hey, you know, we have this bond, we have this unity, the brotherhood, the sisterhood that we have from, you know, graduating from this university. And by improving every aspect on campus, you know, having more activities on campus, getting more students involved, having students become better leaders is something that we really should focus on. Leadership is what we're here to do. We're here to be scholars, and we're here to be leaders. Every single person, whether an art major, a chemistry major, or an accounting major, is going to be a leader in their given field. And if we can cultivate that leadership and give students that leadership to be the leaders in their fields, then we'll have a great university. And by understanding communities, understanding that diversity that we have on this campus will help us do that so even better. There are so many different groups and ethnicities that are represented on this campus. And that's a unique position. Milwaukee is one of the most diverse campuses in the United States. And to have that opportunity to really be involved and take part of something great is amazing. And once again, I'd like to thank all of y'all for coming out tonight. I look forward to seeing hopefully all of you at the April 1st debate and at the elections.
Presidential candidate Ryan Sorensen.
Again, I would like to thank all of you for coming out. I would like to thank Carla for putting this debate together, and I'd like to thank Tom for moderating this debate. UWM is moving in a positive and exciting direction, and I think that is important now than ever that we have an experienced leader in charge of the student government to bring about real and effective change. There are the master plan. We need to have a good leader that understands UWM's master plan to bring about a new union. This union is falling apart. We need a lot more initiatives to enhance the student experience by strengthening the Panther Pride Committee and working with athletics, as well as Greek life to repeal the city ordinance to put Greek letters on houses. I think that is another thing we need to work on as well. And I think that I have the experience to help push UWM in a better direction. So again, I hope to see you all April 1st at the town hall debate. And I hope you guys check out my Facebook page as well and vote for me on April 15th, 16th, and 17th. Thanks.
Presidential candidate Lavelle Young.
Hello again. So I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening, for hearing my ideas, my visions, my opponent's ideas and visions, and the rest of the candidates here today. I really want to stress that I am a student, and the majority of us in here are students, and this is a university campus dedicated to the best interests of the students. And so I want to let everyone know that there is no separate entity that I envision Student Association being separate from the students, nor do I see the administration being separate. I see all of us conjointly coming together, brainstorming, coming up with innovations and ideas together, and let's make things happen. And I want to be the president to make things happen, because I believe my opponents have good intentions, but I am an assertive individual, and I want to make stuff happen, but at the same time in a collaborative environment. And I want to be your president next year. Thank you.
I would now like to ask everyone in the audience to join me in thanking these students for stepping up to serve their fellow students as candidates.
Thanks again, Tom. Nicely done. Thanks. Good job, Ryan.
Well done.
Thank you.
All that experience.
Ryan,
Good job.
ready for Ryan?